We have just a really special treat for you today. Jim Wallace is here, and he's going to be sharing today's message. He's also going to be here later on this afternoon, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a few minutes. But Jim, for 35 years, was an atheist. Pretty hostile to Christianity, and he also was a homicide detective near the city of Los Angeles. And so God began working in his life in such a way that he developed a curiosity about the Bible and just the reliability of the Scriptures and the reliability of God's Word to us. So he began a search. He began an investigation, if you will, into the claims of Christianity. And so he applied what he learned as a homicide detective to what the Bible says about Jesus Christ. And the end result of that was he came to faith in Jesus. And so he's been a youth pastor. He's done a master's at Golden Gate Baptist Seminary, and he's even planted a church. So he's got a lot of church ministry experience. But his passion is equipping believers in training them and helping them be case makers. So if somebody asked you, why do you believe in Jesus? Why are you a Christian? Could you make a case for why you're a Christian? Could you do that? And so what my heart is, as your pastor, is that you would be able and be fully equipped to make that case. And so that's what this apologetics weekend is all about, is really helping you see that the ground that you're standing on in Jesus Christ is solid as a rock. That this is not wishful thinking. We don't believe in fairy tales. It's not about that. That Christianity is true. And so Jim is going to come and share. He's going to introduce a little bit more about himself, but I would love for you guys to give him a Hoosier welcome. So Jim, come on up.
Yeah, I do need to get some Hoosier stuff before I leave the state, okay? Because I just bring it back to my wife, make sure that we have a T-shirt from every state, right? So she has her Ohio State. I know. Her Ohio State, which only because I was at Ohio State, no other reason. I happened to be there, so I got a T-shirt for her. So she's wearing it the other day, and she realizes, wait a minute, these guys won the national championship, right? She had no idea. I said, yeah, actually, you were wearing the right shirt. But did you know that you actually were wearing the shirt for the right reasons? No. It turns out she's wearing that shirt accidentally. And it happens to be it was the day after the championship game. So she didn't even think about it, right? Well, I don't want us to wear our Christianity the same way. I don't want us to happen to have the right T-shirt on, but we put it on accidentally. I want us to have good reasons for what we believe. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because cops are really bad about needing evidence, right? We would never take somebody to trial unless we had really good evidence to believe that he was our suspect. And so we are definitely evidentialists. So I want to introduce you to my work. I was raised by a guy who's not a believer. My dad was a police officer before me in 1961, and he was in the sheriff's academy in Los Angeles County. Sure enough, he had this experience of having a kid while he was in the academy, which was no fun because I was a lot of work, I guess, as an infant. But he put up with it and missed a lot of sleep during those days. As a matter of fact, he was wearing these tan uniforms, or what every rookie would have to wear, tan uniforms back in those days. So I know it was pretty early in his career when he had a crying baby. And I spent some time growing up thinking I might do this job, but then I got interested in the arts, and I did a degree in design and a degree in architecture, and I thought for sure I'd be an architect. But I ended up back in this job at 27 because the job calls you. Families run, and if you've got law enforcement in your family, it tends to run multi-generational. As a matter of fact, my son, because this is how things work out, right? I mean, I had my first child while I was in the academy, so I got to experience all the stuff my dad did. So we've kind of had this dual life. And as you work in law enforcement, you get to do a lot of cool things, but you start off doing the grunt work. You handle calls, you work your patrol beat. I did all that. I worked a couple of years in gangs. Everyone had to have that cursory big mustache, and flat top back in the 80s. I don't know, no one even wears a mustache. There's not a single mustache in this room, is there? Not attached to a beard, I mean. So I guess just mustaches by themselves, they're like gone, huh? But back then, everybody had just a mustache. And then I worked a number of years in specialty details. I worked a SWAT team for a number of years, which was fun. And I got to do some crazy things. It's always, fun to jump out of stuff and shoot things and Got to do that for a while. Of course, in Los Angeles. You guys probably jump out of things and shoot things all the time here in Indiana, huh? Ain't no big deal. But it's a big deal in Los Angeles. So anyway, did that. Then I spent a number of years working undercover, and so I didn't shave or cut my hair for 4 years. And I had a neighbor who wouldn't even introduce himself to me until I cut my hair. I was living across the street from this guy for 3 years, and he never came over because I never cut my hair during that time. And so he comes over. I finally got reassigned to robbery homicide. And he came over like maybe he thought I was a different person. You know, I looked so different when I cut my hair. But he finally introduced himself. The very first week I got assigned to robbery homicide. But during those days when I was working as an undercover officer, that's when I really, for the first time, started to get interested in Jesus. And I wasn't interested up to that point because the Christians I knew in law enforcement, there weren't very many of them, number one. And number two, they were not good evidentialists about their religious beliefs. So if you said, why do you think this is the guy we should work on this robbery series? They could give you the 18 reasons why he's my guy. But if you said, why is Jesus the guy who you trust with your soul? They couldn't give me one good evidential reason. Well, I've had an experience, or I was raised in the church, or I just know this to be true because I pray to God. God answers my prayers. I get all that, but my Mormon family, and I've got 6 brothers and sisters, my dad remarried. I got 6 raised LDS. Those are their answers too. And I rejected Mormonism, so why would I accept Christianity if those are also the answers that Christians give? So I think we can actually do more than that. We can do better than that. As a matter of fact, I think this is evidentially true. And we can make a strong case for why it's true. And we can use some of the same skills that I've been using in homicides to make the case for Christianity. Because for the last 15 years, I've been working old murders that are unsolved. And these end up on TV, and a lot of our work's been on TV. I'll show you some of this stuff at 4 o'clock. A lot of the Dateline episodes actually, I think, apply to the Christian worldview. Think about it, an event in the distant past for which I have no living eyewitnesses, no good forensic evidence, and I have to use a compelling circumstantial case to make the case in front of a jury. That's my life every day. That's also how we make a case for Christianity. An event in the distant past, no living eyewitnesses, but a very strong, compelling circumstantial case. I'm going to teach you how to make that case today. But before we can do any of that, we have to understand what we believe about truth. Now, I post almost everything I write at a website called coldcasechristianity.com. And my son now has started to take over some of these roles. My son's doing the same job I was doing. He's just doing it with a better uniform, I think. I like that uniform better. And the guns maybe got a little more on it, got a better sight, you know, it's laser scoped. I didn't have quite the same, but I was pretty close. My dad had a little bit less than I had. And so for 53 years, we've been doing this job. If you called our agency and asked for Jim Wallace, there's been somebody to answer the phone for the last 53 years. And I think we'll go another 30. My goal is to get 80 years at our agency with the same name. And I want to teach you some of that skill set because I think it really will help you to understand why Christianity is true in a way you can defend. And if we do this with you today, I guarantee you this, at the end of it, you will have a different Christian life. Because once you know something is true with certainty, you start to behave differently. And although I think you probably feel like, I know it's true, it's probably because no one started to punch holes in it yet. But if I started to punch holes in it, the question would be, now you might have some doubts. And trust me, your young people are having holes punched in this all the time. It's called university. It's called life. It's called the culture. It's called the top 10 shows on cable TV. It's called everything they're seeing and facing every day is poking little holes in both their moral values and in the God who gave them those moral values. We have to decide if it's worth making a case to save the next generation. Because if we don't, they're going to actually end up leaving something that's true for something that's false. And that's what we want to do today. And I'm going to send you materials at the end of all this that'll help you be a good Christian case maker from this website. And I'll show you how to get those. Because I'm not here to sell you anything. Yeah, I got a book out there, but you don't need that book. I'm going to give you everything you need. I'm going to send it to you so you can download it for free. Because I want you to be ready to equip the next generation. That's why we're doing this today. A lot of this is available on a phone app also, which I set up online. It's free. And you just can download all the materials on your phone. You can watch all this stuff. You can watch this presentation today in video form on the phone app. So it's all there at your fingertips. If you got a question, it's a good place to ask the first question. And of course, if you want to complain about anything we do today publicly so the whole world can see it, you can do it on Twitter. So get your phone out right now. Let's get this over with. Make your complaints now. Now let's get started. I want to ask you for a hypothetical question. What if I was to say to you that instead of doing a church service today, we're going to actually take a missions trip? Mission trips are cool. The church does them all the time. But mission trips cost you something. They cost you something financially, usually, to go on the trip. It's going to cost you a whole day. Today, we're going to go downtown in Indianapolis, take the whole day. It's going to take 10 hours to do it. It's going to cost you about $15 for gas and food and all the other stuff we got to do. And we're going to go share the truth with people on the streets of Indianapolis, people who don't know the truth. We're going to share the truth with them. How many of you good Christians at this church, led by good pastoral leadership, would be willing to go with me on a 10-hour missions trip downtown in the rain today? We're not coming back till after dark. And we're going to share the truth with people on the streets of Indianapolis who have never heard the truth. Everyone who wants to go on that trip, raise your hand. 3. What's wrong with you people? Seriously? You wouldn't go with me to share the truth? I think most of you would. But what if I told you the truth we're going to share is the truth about your favorite dessert? In other words, you've got some dessert you like. What did they say in the last service? Somebody in the first row said, persimmon. I said, what's the best dessert in Indiana? And she said, persimmon pudding. Seriously? Seriously? That's the best you guys got. So what is the best dessert in Indiana, honestly? What is it? It is what? Yell it out. What? Sugar cream pie. That does sound pretty good. Chocolate eclairs, those are better. You're better. You're chocolate. It's got the chocolate part right. So everyone's got a different opinion about this, huh? So if I said to you, we're going to go downtown and we're going to share the truth about dessert, most of you would say, that's a stupid trip. Why would I spend $15 of my time and my whole day in the rain on the streets of Indianapolis to share your favorite dessert? By the way, you all got it wrong. The best dessert is chocolate chip cookies. Duh. Like that was a hard one. Come on, everyone knows this. Have you ever had, by the way, have you ever had Chick-fil-A chocolate chip cookies? Are those the best chocolate chip cookies or what? Okay, good. We're in the club together. So that's what I'm saying. This is a great dessert. But I still wouldn't go share it downtown. Why? Because you know this would be a stupid trip, because this is really a matter of opinion. And this is the first thing we have to get right about truth claims. This claim about your favorite dessert is called a subjective truth claim, because you get to decide as the subject whether or not it is true. It's all come down to subjective opinion. Got it? That's the difference. You're not interested in going on a trip like this. But what if I told you you have a different kind of trip? There are people downtown in Indianapolis right now who are dying of tuberculosis. It's actually a problem in Southern California. It's on the rise. TB is back. It can be cured, but people have to know they have it. And there are people downtown Indianapolis right now who don't even know they have TB. They're coughing, they got a fever, they think they have, bronchitis, they're taking NyQuil and daycare and all kinds of silly stuff to try to treat it, and they're feeling okay. They don't know they're actually slowly dying of TB. We can go and we can save these people, and we just have to go and share the cure. If we took that kind of a trip, I bet you most of you would be willing to spend the $15 and take a day, because you know that these people who are living on the streets with TB and have kids who are also contracting TB will be dead unless you get there with the cure. That's a trip most of us would take. We won't go to share our favorite dessert, but you probably would go to share the cure. And the reason why you do it is because you know this is different. And by the way, the cure is isoniazid. It's part of a 3 antibiotic cocktail we give to cure TB. Without isoniazid, this doesn't work. I got TB several years ago from a guy I arrested. And I didn't know it at first, but I finally went to the doctor, and I wasn't active. I was just positive, TB positive. They won't even treat you if you're over 40 with TB. So I'm still TB positive. But I'm not TB active, hopefully. We'll find out at lunch when we all sit close to each other and have lunch. So we'll see. Don't drink after me for sure. But the point is, we can cure it. We know how to cure it. And this kind of a truth claim is very different than the claim about dessert. This is about truth, and it resides not in, my opinion, by the way, can't change whether isoniazid is the cure for TB. Your opinion can't do anything with it. You might be of the opinion, I hate needles. I don't want to take isoniazid. I'd rather just continue to take daycare. Guess what? Your opinion won't change the fact that isoniazid is the cure for this. Sorry, that's the cure. Because this claim is not a subjective truth claim that resides in your opinion. This is an objective claim, because the truth of this resides in the object itself. This is what makes it true. You don't make this true. Isoniazid makes this true. Got it? That's the difference. And we have to get this difference right, church, Because I tell you what's happening. I don't think many of us how many of you feel like you're the Billy Graham of your generation? In other words, you're at a restaurant, you're sitting down waiting for a table, you're sharing the gospel. You're in line at the market, you can't help yourself, you're sharing the gospel. Everywhere you go, you're like Franklin and Billy Graham. You can't shut up. You're like Ruth Graham. You're constantly sharing the gospel. Raise your hand if that's who you are. Raise your hand. Nobody. No, and if anyone does raise your hand, you're a liar. Okay? Really? Why don't we share this? Is it because we think, and really deep in our heart, at least we act as though we think, that the gospel is a subjective claim? It really is a matter of opinion. I got a different view of God than you do. My view is my view. Your view is your view. I would never force my view on you. Are we treating the gospel of Jesus Christ like a cookie instead of a cure? Are we treating it as though it's a subjective truth claim instead of an objective truth claim? I think we are. And I think a lot of it is because we don't understand the difference. So today, I'm going to teach you the difference, and then I'm going to test you to see if you can actually remember the difference. I'm going to get a test, all right, and see if you pass it. But I want to just give you some background first, teach you about the differences between objective and subjective before we do, okay? I'm going to start with my own car. This is my beautiful 2006 Hyundai Sonata. It was given to me. I didn't want a Hyundai Sonata. I never owned a Hyundai. But it was given to me. It's a great car. I love it. Love it. And isn't it a beautiful car? Don't you all close your eyes at night and wish you had a 2006 Hyundai Sonata? I know you do. Young people, don't you wish you had this car? Do you guys, seriously, would you, that's a ride, huh? No. As a matter of fact, my own family, every kid in our family gets the car that I last drove. So when they get close to like 15, 16 years of age, they look around, they realize, okay, what's Pop driving? That's going to be my car. And so my daughters, when they got to about this driving age, they looked and they saw that this was in the driveway. And they're like, oh, geez, that's not going to be my car, is it? I said, yeah, I'm getting the new car. You get the old car. That's how this works, right? I can't drive that car. My daughter, Annie, she could not. By the way, she's driving this car right now. I can't drive that car. Why not? That's an old man's car. Look, it's an old man's car. I don't want to drive that car. You're lucky you have a car. Okay, that's always my approach, right? So she doesn't. I'm going to put a statement on the wall that describes how I feel about Hyundais, and you tell me if this statement is objective or subjective. Are you ready? Here it is. Objective or subjective, Hyundai automobiles are the coolest cars in the world. Subjective. Okay, great. You already got this. It's a matter of opinion. By the way, it's hard to falsify an opinion. You can falsify something that's objective. You know, if it's a Hyundai, that I can falsify. No, it's not a Hyundai. But if you said to me, no, you don't, Jim, you don't think that's the coolest car in the world. Yes, I do. No, you don't. You can't falsify my subjective opinions. Got it? Now let me ask you this. Is there a way that this claim could actually be objective in nature? In other words, not be a matter of opinion, but could be objectively true based on the nature of the car. Not the nature of me holding an opinion, but the nature of the object, the car. Can you think of a way it could be? Throw it out. What is it? How could it be objectively true? Yell it out. There you go. Were you in the last service? Oh, good for you. I thought you were cheating. No, you're right. I always say if you took every car and you brought them into a shop and you measured the air conditioning of every car on the planet and you found out that Hyundais were 4 degrees colder than any other car on the planet, then you could actually say that, and it would be more than a matter of opinion. It would be objectively true. Do you see the difference? Just show you my commitment to Hyundais. My son needed a car to go to college at UCLA. Bruins, go Bruins. I went to UCLA also, so that's why he went there. He had long hair, he had a little bit of money, bought a Hyundai Accent. Perfect for him. My other son, the communist, goes to USC. And he's in med school there, so I can't give him a hard time about it because he's doing really well, but he needed a car, so he had a little bit of money. What do you think we bought him? Hyundai Elantra. We don't fool around. I have 5 Hyundais now. Too many kids. Now, if I made this statement, you tell me if this is an objective or subjective statement. Let's change it a little bit. What if I said, Hyundai automobiles can fly you to the moon? Objective or subjective? Remember, you can always tell subjective because if your opinion can change it, it's a subjective claim. If your opinion can't change it, it's an objective claim. That's an easy way to tell the difference. Objective or subject? How many say it's objective? Raise your hand. Good. How many say it's subjective? Raise your hand. Be honest, raise your hand. How many just don't know? Raise your hand. Just don't know what to make of this. Okay, it's hard because this is a false claim. Clearly, cars can't drive you to the moon. But remember, I told you, you can't falsify subjective claims. You can only falsify objective claims. That's another giveaway. Also, can my opinion about this car make it go to the moon? Can I change my opinion? And my opinion is it can go to the moon. That's not going to make it go to the moon. This is an objective claim, although it's objectively false. So don't be confused. There are times when claims can be false, objectively so. This is an objective claim, but it happens to be false. We know that only spaceships can take you to the moon. Okay, that being said, let's do a test and see how well you guys do. We're going to divide all kinds of truth claims into two categories. On the one side, we're going to have only objective truth claims. On the other side, we're going to have only subjective truth. Remember, objective truth claims are those things that no matter whether you like it or not, they're true for all of us. Because they don't reside in your opinion, they reside in the object itself. And subjective claims are those things that you actually can change with your opinion because it's really a personal issue. You get to decide as the subject. Got it? I'll give you a claim. You tell me which list it should go on. Are you ready? We'll start easy. We'll start with just physical claims. Claims that describe physical properties, material properties we can see with our own eyes. So here's a claim. Which side should it go on? Is this an objective claim? Raise your hand. Subjective claim, raise your hand. Not quite sure? It's okay, raise your hand. Pretty easy, huh? This is a claim that's pretty clear. It's a material, physical claim about the color of my car. My opinion can't change it. It's an objective claim. It goes on the objective side. Let's go one more step. How about this claim related to the color of my car? Objective, raise your hand. Subjective, raise your hand. Good. Don't know? Fine. Easy. Physical claims. This isn't a matter of opinion. It goes on that side. How about this claim? We're going to take another step. We've talked about physical claims. Those are always easy. But what about conceptual claims like this one? A math fact. Objective, raise your hand. Subjective, raise your hand. Not sure, raise your hand. Okay. Whatever the outcome of this equation or any other math equation, can my opinion change its truth value? Can I say, in my opinion, 1 plus 1 is 3. I've got some way of doing math. I think it's 1 plus 1 is 3. That's just my way of doing math. This would be great, by the way, if it was subjective, because you'd never fail a math test, would you? No, this is something your opinion can't change. It's an objective conceptual fact. It's not a physical claim. It's a conceptual claim, but it falls on the side of objective. What about this claim about math? Now, we talked about this last service. I actually think that this claim is so patently false that it's objective. But no, the point is, there are people who like math. I want to expose you all right now. If you like math, raise your hand. Great. These are all the geeks who show up at Comic-Con and Star Trek conventions. They're engineers. And by the way, they make the best jurors. I love math geeks on juries. They're so good. So, I love mathematicians and engineers. On juries, anyway. This is your opinion decides this, and there are people who like math, so it's a matter of opinion. It goes on that side. Now we've talked about physical claims. We talked about conceptual claims. Let's raise the bar. Let's do some metaphysical claims, big realities, the reality of how the world really is, like this one. Oh, this is not really one of those claims. Forgot I had this in here. I put this in here for a reason because this is one that I'm going to offer you. It is neither really physical, it kind of is in one sense, it's conceptual in another sense, but you don't even know whether this is true or false, do you? You don't know if I can do it or not. So here's a claim that you don't even know its true or false nature, but I'm asking you to decide its objective or subjective nature. So is this claim objective? Raise your hand. Subjective? Raise your hand. Not quite sure? Raise your hand. Yeah, this is a little harder, and already we're starting to see a little more division in the room. We're not quite sure. And a simple way to test it, can your opinion change the outcome? Can my opinion change? I can either do it or I can't do it. So this is an objective claim, not even sure if it's true or false, but it's not based on my opinion. My opinion can't change it. So you see where we're headed with this? Now we'll do a metaphysical claim. Sorry for that little detour. Can I do 100 push-ups? Of course. Do I need to prove it to you? At 4 o'clock, I'll prove it to you. Okay, so God exists. A metaphysical claim. This is a much different kind of claim. How many of you feel right now this is a objective claim? Subjective claim? Not quite sure. Okay, fair enough. Metaphysical claims are the next level, and the culture would like us to believe these are all subjective. But look, I can be wrong about whether God exists. God may not exist. But is my opinion going to make it so or make it not so? No. My opinion cannot change whether God exists or doesn't exist. This claim is an objective claim. Don't know if it's true or false? Okay, fine. Think it's false? Fine. But it's an objective claim. Why is that important? Because church, you won't fight for subjective claims, but you won't even fight for this objective claim. You won't stand up for the truth of this objective claim. Why not? I told you the things that matter the most are the objective ones, like whether we're dying of TB and need a cure. Our attitude toward this position, toward this reality, should be really urgent. C.S. Lewis said it this way in God in the Dock. He said, if Christianity is untrue, it's of no importance. If it is true, it's of infinite importance. The one thing it could never be is moderately important. You're either in or you're out. And you got to be way in, or like I was, way out. I'm good with either position. But to be half in and half out makes no sense. We have to treat this claim with the due respect of an objective claim. It goes on that side. Make sense? Here's what's even harder for the culture to grab. Even if they think, well, some form of theism may be true, don't you Christians dare say this. Is that an objective claim or a subjective claim? How many say it's subjective? Raise your hand. Fine. How many say it's objective? Raise your hand. How many aren't sure? Do you see how we really are starting to divide much deeper than we were before? Not sure. By the way, I see this in churches all across America. I give this test everywhere, to every age group, from 8th graders up to adults. I give it at Summit Worldview Conference to high schoolers 8 times every year. I want to see where they stand on these issues. And I can tell you that this is a tough one. But could your opinion make this true? Could your opinion make it false? It's either true or it's false, regardless of where you land on this. It's not a subjective claim. It's an objective claim about the nature of reality. We have to figure out, is it true or is it false? We owe it to ourselves to get the answer to that question because it's an objective claim. It's not about dessert. Let's go another level, the hardest level of all claims, the one where everyone stumbles, because we've talked about physical claims, conceptual claims, metaphysical claims, but what in the world do we do with moral claims? Are moral claims objectively true? Are there any transcendent, objective, moral truth claims? Or is everything when it comes to morals just a matter of utility? It's a matter of cultural perspective, individual perspective, historical perspective. It changes over time. Or are there such things as objective, transcendent moral truths that span every generation of anyone who's ever lived? They transcend all of us. If that's the case, we owe it to ourselves to find out if this is true or false. If it's just an opinion, who cares if it's true or false? As long as it's true for you, I'm good to go. See the difference? So I want to just offer to you that, yes, moral claims are objective. And I'll try to make it as clear as possible. Let me start with a crazy one, an over-the-top one. Has it ever been morally okay, morally virtuous, morally acceptable to torture babies for fun? Can you think of a scenario in which that works for you? Or would work for any culture, any people group, anywhere on the planet, any time in history? It has never been okay to do that. Can we say some people have done that? Yeah, we call those people sick. Because we know it's not right for them to do that. I've just given you at least one objective, transcendent moral truth. I'm demonstrating to you that these things exist. Is it ever okay to steal? Might be. What for Jack Bauer? I got to steal this code to this bomb. If I don't steal the code to the bomb, 1 million people are going to die. All I have to do is just reach over and steal it off the table. Should I steal it? Darn right you should steal it. You're going to save 1 million lives, you knucklehead. Is it okay to lie? Is it ever okay to lie? Is it ever okay to lie biblically? Is there somebody in the Bible who's lied in the Old Testament and they describe her in Hebrews as a hero of the faith because she lied? Who is that? Rahab. Wait a minute, so where's the objective truth in that? Here it is. It's never okay to steal for the fun of it, to lie for the fun of it, to kill for the fun of it. When you add for the fun of it to the end of any of these activities, you discover it's objective, transcendent moral truth claim. Could you find a way to justify it? Well, Scripture says that if you're trying to save your own life or save the life of an innocent, in both Leviticus and in Exodus, those are justifiable homicides. But it's never been okay in any culture, anywhere in history, anywhere on the entire planet to kill somebody for the fun of it. You don't do that. Moral truth claims end up being just as objective as any other kind of truth claim. We have to decide whether it's true or false, but it belongs on that side of the ledger. Now, why is that a big deal in our culture? Do I really need to explain that to you? We're in a culture right now which is running from the church because of its moral code. We have certain beliefs about certain behaviors we think are immoral. If we can't articulate why these are not just our opinion, but are objectively true whether you're a Christian or not, whether you're a theist or not, we all believe in some form of objective moral truth. Let me tell you, they've polled the culture on this. Barna's done a good survey on this, polling the culture to ask them, do you guys believe in objective moral truth claims? Here's what the culture says. In terms of adults, not very many. 78% of adults do not think there are such things as objective moral truths. And when you poll students, young people, it's ridiculous. Only 6% in the culture say that there are such things as objective moral truth claims. And the church is not a lot better. 34% in the church of adults say there are such things as objective moral truths. That's not a high number, folks. And in the youth groups, it's not much better than the general culture. 9%. We need to get this one right. Because if, by the way, when the culture attacks what you believe morally, they are attacking the God who gave you that standard to begin with. So an attack against your moral beliefs is really an attack against your God. We have to get this right. I want to leave with you today with 3 things I think the culture is lying to us about. 3 lies that are told about the truth. Here's the first one. The first lie here is that there really are no such thing as everything's a matter of perspectival truth claims. Everything's a matter of perspective, context, situational ethics. Everything is a matter of perspective. There are no objective moral truth claims. Einstein seems to affirm something very similar to this when he said, truth is what stands the test of experience. Let me show you a quote that I think really speaks to this. And it really speaks to your belief as Christians. Believe nothing just because a so-called wise person like Jesus said it. Believe nothing just because a belief is generally held by Christians. Believe nothing just because it's said in some ancient book like the Bible. Believe nothing just because it's supposedly of a divine origin, like from your God. Believe nothing just because someone else believes it, like everyone in this room believes it. Instead, believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true. That's going to be different for all of us because we're all different people. We test things differently. We have different judgments on these things. Who do you think said this? An ancient sage said this named Buddha. But let me ask you a question. How do you know that Buddha said this? Because it happens to be in an ancient book of allegedly divine origin, said by a very wise person, accepted by millions. So do you see the problem with this statement? It can't even stand on its own 2 feet. It contradicts itself. It's called a self-refuting statement. It's like me saying I can't speak a word of English. As I say the sentence, I've already demonstrated that it's not true. And this cannot be true because its statement itself defies its own principles. It's a suicide statement. It hangs itself. And so if someone said to you, well, there's no objective truth, you would have to say, well, really, is that objectively true? Are you saying there's one objective truth, that there's no objective truth? Because if that's the case, there can't be the one objective truth, that there's no you see where we're headed with this. It's not good. Okay. So maybe there's objective, I'll give you that. But even if there is objective truth, the second lie coming, you really can know it. Objective truth can't be known with really any certainty you can trust. Even in science, we have a proposal for what something is true, and then 5 years later, new evidence comes to light, we change our proposal. We can never really be certain. And you Christians who think you know the truth about God, please, this kind of truth really can't be known by simple minds like human minds. You could never know this. Here's the claim. I want you to think about that for a second. Is this claim true? You hear it sometimes with other thinkers, especially atheist thinkers, like believe those who are seeking the truth, but doubt you Christians who think you've found it. Or I love this by Molly Ivins. You tell me if you see the problem with this. She says, I believe that ignorance is the root of all evil and that no one knows the truth. So does she know the truth? She seems to know that truth. Self-refuting statement. If someone says they can't know the truth, you're going to ask, do you know that's true? Do you know that it's true you can't know the truth? Because apparently there is something you can know. There's the problem. Self-refuting statements. Let me get you one that's a little more subtle. The third lie the culture tells. It's in the issue of tolerance. Because typically we've redefined tolerance in this generation to mean something it's never supposed to have meant. Here's tolerance the way I think our kids are being taught by the culture. All views have equal merit, and none should be considered as any better than any other. If you think you got a view about God, great, but keep it to yourself. It's no better than my view about God. All of our views are equally meritorious. Really? That's a stupid statement. It's self-refuting also. Because if I hold a view that says that all views are not equally meritorious, he would have to accept it as equal to his view under his definition of tolerance. But he won't accept my view that all views aren't the same because he's apparently intolerant to one view only, my view. Do you see the problem? It's a self-refuting statement. You can't actually live it. You could proclaim it, but you can't actually live it. Turns out that tolerance requires three things. I'll give you the definition of tolerance first because it takes two people to have tolerance. You don't need tolerance if you're by yourself. If you're the only person on the planet, you don't need tolerance. Tolerance, by definition, is this. And it's the old classic definition. A fair, objective, and permissive attitude toward those whose opinions, practices, race, religion, nationality, etc. differ from one's own. You don't need tolerance if you agree with somebody. You agree with them. It turns out in order to have tolerance at all, you need 3 Ds. The first thing you need is you need disagreement. No disagreement, no need for tolerance. If you folks have been abandoning your position on any number of issues simply because you don't want to disagree and seem to be intolerant, you've lost the opportunity to be tolerant because you can't be tolerant unless you have the disagreement. Hold on to your idea. Hold on to the truth and disagree. Now you've got an opportunity for tolerance. Also, you need to know what you believe and what they believe. Half the problem we have in the church is we're not sure what we believe. So we don't know if what we believe actually even differs from what the other side believes. Know your case. I don't ever go into a trial without knowing his case better than he knows his case. I know my case better than he knows my case. I know that for sure. But I also want to do the research to know when I get on the stand under cross-examination, I know exactly what he's going to ask me. I'm ready. Know the difference. Third thing, don't be a jerk. It's about demeanor. I'm here to tell you it's okay for you to hate bad ideas. Hate them because Jesus hated bad ideas. You're just not at liberty to hate the people who hold them. You're called to love the people who hold bad, evil ideas. But some ideas are bad and they are evil, and we ought to reject them. And we can be tolerant with people who hold those ideas, but don't agree with them in order to be tolerant. That's not what tolerance is. Hold on to the disagreement, but love them anyway. That's what tolerance is. So I want to give you that liberty to do that. Before I go, I want you to see this. Do you guys ever seen these around here? We have a lot in California. Maybe the company's in California, I don't know. And they've spawned a number of evil offspring, all of these. They don't seem bad on face, right? They seem like, oh, why shouldn't you be accepting and coexist? But really what these bumper stickers try to convince us is that all religious views are equal and we should just get along. Why can't you just tolerate, coexist? All you people with all these variety of religious beliefs, they're all equally true. Just get along. Really? They could be a lot of things. They could be equally false. But they can't be equally true because their claims are countered. They contradict one another. So for example, if you're somebody who has a kind of Mideastern or Near Eastern or Far Eastern view of God, I guarantee you that's probably, if it's a Hindu or a Buddhistic view, it's going to be a view of God that's very impersonal. An impersonal force. We don't believe God's an impersonal force. Our foundational view about who God is just the opposite of these folks. We could both be wrong, or one of us can be wrong, but we can't both be right because they're two different things. And if you've got Jewish friends who don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, was God himself, they might accept him as a wise rabbi, but they won't accept him as anything else. Well, guess what? We don't believe that. We believe he was God. These are two different views of Jesus. We can both be wrong, but we can't both be right. And your Muslim friends don't even believe that Jesus died on that cross. Either somebody stood in his place or didn't really die, whatever the case may be. They don't believe he rose from the dead. We believe he did. Two different views. I can be wrong. They could be wrong. We can't both be right. These could be equally false claims, but they cannot be equally true claims. Do you see the difference? Christians, it's time for us to know what we believe, why we believe it. It'll make a difference in your life. When I was working in this detail, I used to have to wear a bulletproof vest every day. When you're working in patrol, you wear a bulletproof vest. It's underneath that stupid shirt, believe it or not. And I used to wear it because it saves your life. And if you've ever worked in this industry, you know what Kevlar can do. As a matter of fact, you've probably put your vest on a target, put it downrange at 25 feet or 25 yards and shot at it. I shot it up to, I wanted to see what could it do at 5 feet. Can it stop this round? Can it stop a 45 caliber bullet at 5 feet? I needed to know. I'm going to wear that thing. So when you first got our vest, the company came down and put these vests on targets and we shot at them to see what they could stop. Gives you great confidence. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what kind of confidence it gives you. Years later, I was assigned to a robbery homicide team that also has to work all call-outs, all officer-involved shootings. If an officer gets involved in a shooting, they call us out. We walk through the shoot scene with the officer to make sure it was a legitimate shooting. So I get called out one night. The guy says, I stopped this car for drunk driving. It's swerving on the road. I get up on it. He stops. He drives into a parking lot. He doesn't stop initially, but he gets in the parking lot. So I walk up on the car. I smell alcohol coming out of the open window. I can tell he's kind of a rough guy. I ask him to get out of the car. He gets out of the car. He's this huge parolee. Now, the guy who we got out of the car for drunk driving had been out of custody about a week and 2 weeks, maybe at the tops, 2 weeks. He'd been in jail for an assault with a deadly weapon charge. And he was a big guy. And he was carrying, the officer didn't know it, he had a Colt .45 caliber handgun in his waistband underneath his shirt, which was untucked. So he gets out of the car, and now he's facing the officer. The officer has no idea he's armed, but he knows he's a bad player. So he tells him, tell you what, I'm going to pat you down before we start this field sobriety test, FST. So he says, do me a favor, it's about this far away from the guy. He says, turn around and face away from me. Because typically once he faces away, you'll start a pat-down search from the rear where it's safest. So he stands, and instead of turning and facing away from the officer, this guy decided, he knew that if he was caught with that gun in his waistband, he'd do a year. Back in those days, not the same anymore. But back then, if you got caught as a parolee with a gun, you'd do a year in custody. He didn't want to do a year in custody. He decided right then, I'd rather kill this officer than do another year in jail. No problem. Says, turn around, face away from me for a second. Guy turns around, turns back around, faces the officer. Now he's got his gun pointed at the officer. He's about as far as I am to this table. I said, so I'm at the shoot scene. I'm saying, well, I'm next to the car. There's bullet holes everywhere. I said, what happened next? He said, well, obviously he survived this, right? I'm talking to the guy. He said, well, I knew that he had the draw on me. I wasn't prepared for it. So my hands were about here, and I realized I wasn't even close to mine. I just thought, he's going to shoot first. So I just tensed up my stomach muscles, and I figure, I'm wearing a vest. I'll take the first few rounds as I get my gun out and return fire. I thought, wow, that's pretty gutsy. See, he started off that night at the beginning of the shift with the belief that his vest could stop the round. He'd seen it stop rounds. But in that one moment, he was going to transition from belief that to belief in. Because he's about to trust that vest to do what he believed it could do based on his test. It turns out, if you want to stand tall like that, and not duck or run or doing that stupid stuff that gets you shot in the head because you're in the wrong range, you have to have confidence in your vest that you only got because you tested it over here. How many of you, church, have ever shot rounds in this thing you call Christianity to know if it can stand the test? Do you even know this is really true? That it can hold up to hard scrutiny? I guarantee you this, once you've shot rounds in this vest, it'll change the way you wear it. It'll change the stuff you do when you have it on. Once you know it's true like that, you don't duck. You stand tall in a way you never stood tall before. If you want that kind of belief in, you have to start shooting at your vest. That's why we're doing this today. I want you to know something about truth so that today we can examine step by step why theism is I could do a lot of things in life, but I could never go back to being an atheist. I could, if you want to walk away from Christianity, I can tell you this, the case for theism is overwhelming. Overwhelming. The case for Christianity is overwhelming. I'll show it to you today. You might think, that's such a bunch of junk. Okay. This is my family today. Jimmy's grown up now. Girls are grown up. David's the communist in med school there. I raised this kid to be just like me. What happened? He's actually good looking. So I said, we tried to shoot holes all along. They don't remember a time when I wasn't probing or testing or making a case for what we believe as Christians. Because I want them, his undergraduate's in biochemistry. You don't think at UC Santa Barbara, which is a great party school, by the way, taking biochemistry, he didn't encounter his fair share of atheists, tried to take away his faith from him? Oh my gosh. But I already shot holes in that thing. He already knew where all the holes could possibly be, and they didn't know anything what they were talking about. He was prepared before he got there, so he could stand tall once he got there. He had the vest on. That's what I want to do with you guys today at 4 o'clock. I'm not a Christian because it works for me. Because honestly, it doesn't work for me. And it doesn't mean, in some ways, I guess you could say it does, but honestly, how many times do you have to do the thing you know is the right thing to do instead of the thing you really want to do, the thing your passion says you want to do? How many times is it harder to live as a Christian than it would be just to live as an atheist? You know it's harder. This is not an easy life. I'm not a Christian because I was raised in the church because I wasn't, or I knew a bunch of Christians because I didn't, or I was hoping for heaven or afraid of hell because I wasn't. I wasn't trying to change my life, make something better, fill a void. I had none of those things. I'm simply a Christian because it's true. I'm stuck with it. But wouldn't you rather be in the truth than in a convenient lie? And we are in the truth, Christians. So what I'm going to do is, we're done, but I want you to join me at 4 o'clock. I'm going to send you all of these materials. I got a page I set up just for you guys. You can't put it in Google. You have to put it in your browser, coldcasechristianity.com/resources. If you're going to take one picture today, take this one. Because I want you to put this in your browser. It's free. I'm going to send you the videos. I'm going to send you the video of this talk. It's actually an hour-and-a-half talk. You're going to get all of it. I'm going to send you the video on all the podcasts and all the PDF files for the talk last night, the talk this morning, the talk at 4, the talk at 5, the talk at 6. But join us today. We're trying to make a difference in your life as Christians. Let's pray. Father, we know that we're lazy. And we want to repent of our apathy. Sometimes we just get caught up in all the stuff that seems to matter so much more than you. And we're willing to study so many things and read so many things, but Father, just remind us that when we read about you and we study you, we are actually worshiping you with our minds. We know how important it is to take a step in this direction, but we also know how much we struggle, and we don't often think that it's something we can do successfully. We're afraid, or we're discouraged, or we're not sure what we're going to find out. Father, give us the courage to study you, to question you, to poke a few holes, to see how you stand up. We know you're faithful. And you are truth. We love you. We give you this day and this week. And we pray this in Jesus' name. And everyone here says, amen. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.